There are moments in life when silence feels louder than words. When something you thought would last forever ends so suddenly, it's as if time itself pauses to watch your heart break. Maybe it was a relationship you prayed for, a dream you built your identity around, or a door you were so sure God had opened, until it slammed shut in your face. And in that moment you stand there, staring at what was unable to move, unable to breathe. You whisper, "God, why?" And heaven seems quiet. But listen closely, because even in the silence, there's a voice. It's soft, like wind passing through leaves, yet it carries divine power. It says, "Don't panic. Don't lose faith. This door closed because I have already chosen another." Sometimes the greatest mercy God can give you is a closed door, because not every open path leads to peace. Not every person meant well for your soul, and not every dream was built to last forever. Some were built to prepare you. You see, we cry over doors that God himself locked, not to punish us, but to protect us. He saw what you didn't. He heard the conversations behind the curtain. He knew that staying there would have drained your spirit, stolen your joy, or delayed your destiny. So he intervened, quietly, swiftly, lovingly. And yes, it hurt. It broke something inside you. But what broke wasn't your destiny, it was your dependency. Because the truth is, sometimes we trust the door more than the one who opened it. We get so attached to what looks stable that we forget the source of the stability was never the job, the person, or the plan. It was God's hand all along. Have you ever noticed how peace doesn't always come wrapped in explanation? Sometimes it comes disguised as loss. Sometimes it looks like silence, like rejection, like the ending you didn't ask for. But those are the moments heaven whispers, "I'm doing something you can't see yet." When you lose something you thought you couldn't live without, it feels like the world is ending. But to God, it's just a scene change, a gentle turn in the story he's still writing. Because while one door closes before your eyes, another is already opening behind the curtain. And when it opens, you'll understand why the first had to shut. There's a verse, a quiet anchor for nights like this. Psalm 34:18. It says, "The Lord is close to the brokenhearted and saves those who are crushed in spirit." Think about that, not distant, not silent, close. Closer than your thoughts, closer than your pain, closer than the breath trembling in your chest right now. He's not just aware of your heartbreak. He's sitting in it with you. He's holding what you dropped. And while you cry over what was, he's already arranging what's next. It's strange, isn't it? How God works in patterns we don't understand until later. How the doors that broke us somehow end up becoming the reason we're standing stronger. Every closed door has purpose. Every delay hides direction. And every heartbreak carries instruction. There's something sacred about endings. They force you to look for beginnings again. Not in people, not in plans, but in God himself. And when you finally do, you discover that he was never leading you to the door. He was leading you to dependence. Maybe that's why Psalm 23 says, "He makes me lie down in green pastures." Notice he makes me. Because sometimes we won't rest unless he closes the door that keeps us running. We won't stop striving until there's nowhere else to go but his presence. And when we finally stop fighting the closure, we find peace that was waiting all along. Peace doesn't always show up at the beginning of something new. Sometimes it shows up when you stop resisting the end. So if you're standing tonight in front of a closed door, feeling forgotten, remember this. You are not being punished, you are being positioned. The ending is not rejection, it's redirection. You are not losing your purpose. You're stepping out of what limited it. You might not see the new door yet, but that's the beauty of faith. Faith walks forward even when it can't see the handle. Faith says, even if I don't understand it now, I trust that God's hand is guiding me to something better. Because behind every no, there's a bigger yes. Behind every loss, there's love still waiting. Behind every delay, there's design. Sometimes God doesn't show you the next door right away because he wants you to rest between them, to breathe, to heal, to rediscover who you are without what you lost. And when your heart has healed enough to trust again, he'll whisper, "Now look up." And there, quietly waiting, you'll find the next door, stronger, safer, sacred. And you'll smile because you'll realize it was there all along. There's a stillness that follows heartbreak, a sacred quiet that only comes when everything you clung to slips away. It's not the kind of silence that asks for answers. It's the kind that whispers, "Just breathe." Because in that moment, heaven is closer than you think. You may not see it now, but there's beauty in the in-between, that delicate space between the door that closed and the one that's yet to open. It's the waiting room of grace, where God rebuilds what life has broken. It's where he reintroduces you to yourself. Not the version defined by who left or what ended, but the version designed to rise again. Sometimes God allows one door to close because he's not just changing your direction. He's changing your definition. He's teaching you that your worth isn't found in who accepts you, but in who created you. He's reminding you that your peace isn't tied to a plan. It's anchored in a promise. And in that quiet space where your tears fall on pillows that no one else can see, he begins his finest work. He takes your disappointment and he reshapes it into destiny. He takes your confusion and turns it into clarity. He takes your loss and refines it into light. That's what Psalm 27:2 means when it says, "Wait for the Lord, be strong and take heart and wait for the Lord." It's not a passive waiting. It's a trusting one. It's the kind of waiting that says, even when I don't see it, I believe something good is growing beneath the surface. There's a power in stillness that the world doesn't understand. The world says, keep moving, keep fighting, keep proving. But God whispers, be still and know that I am God. Because the truth is, when one door closes, our first instinct is to panic. We feel forgotten. We replay what went wrong. We question our faith, our future, and even our identity. But what if God allows the door to close not to end something, but to protect something precious within you? He knows when something that once blessed you begins to blind you. He knows when your loyalty becomes your limitation. He knows when you've outgrown the place that can no longer feed your soul. So he closes it, not because you're unworthy, but because you've completed that chapter. It's not failure, it's fulfillment. It's not punishment, it's promotion. He's shifting the stage, changing the scenery, preparing the next act of your story. And though you can't see the new door yet, your spirit can feel the pull. That quiet sense that something unseen is waiting just beyond the horizon. You might wonder, if God already picked another door, why can't I see it? Because the most powerful blessings are never revealed before your heart is ready to receive them. He hides them, not to withhold them, but to shape you in the dark, to grow the patience, humility, and strength you'll need for what's coming. It's like a seed planted deep in the soil. The moment it's buried, it feels like death, darkness, silence, pressure. But that's not the end. The darkness is the preparation for light. That's what's happening with you right now. You're not buried. You're planted. And soon, what's been growing in secret will break through the surface, and everyone will see the beauty that only pressure could produce. In the middle of your heartbreak, God begins whispering through Scripture. There's one psalm that feels like it was written for nights just like this. Psalm 91. He who dwells in the secret place of the Most High shall abide under the shadow of the Almighty. That's not just poetry. That's protection. It's a divine reminder that even when everything familiar fades, there's a shadow you can rest under. When doors close and you don't know where to go, that's where he invites you, into the secret place, into the stillness where your tears become prayers and your prayers become peace. Before you sleep, read it, whisper it. Let the words sink past your mind and into your spirit, because Scripture doesn't just speak to your thoughts, it reprograms your heart. It plants peace where panic used to live. And as you meditate on it, your subconscious begins to shift. Your body releases tension, your heart slows, your breath deepens. You realize that you were never alone in this room of silence. God was here the whole time, waiting for you to stop knocking on closed doors long enough to hear him call you toward the open one. Every night, when you lay your head down, heaven goes to work. Because while you rest, God restores. While you sleep, he's rearranging the pieces that didn't fit before. While you dream, he's writing new chapters that will one day explain every tear, every delay, every closed door. And when morning comes, something subtle will shift. You'll wake up lighter, not because your circumstances have changed, but because your spirit has. You'll stop asking, "Why did it end?" and start whispering, "Thank you for ending it when you did." Because hindsight always reveals what heartbreak hides. That God never takes without replacing, never closes without redirecting, and never says no without meaning not yet or not this. Maybe the door that closed wasn't evil. Maybe it was simply expired. And when something expires, it doesn't mean it was bad. It just means its purpose has been fulfilled. God allows some things to end because they were meant to teach you how to trust, not how to stay. He allows certain people to walk away because he knows their presence was temporary, but his plan is eternal. He allows a dream to fall apart because he knows it was never the destination. It was the vehicle that drove you closer to him. And the beautiful thing about divine redirection is this: the pain of the door closing always fades, but the piece of what comes next always remains. You'll reach a day when you look back and realize the very door that broke you became the doorway to your breakthrough. If tonight you're standing in that in-between, with a closed door behind you and an unknown ahead, don't rush the silence. Let the quiet become your classroom. Let the pause become your prayer. Because that's where trust grows roots. And when the next door opens, not by your force, but by his timing, you'll walk through it not with fear, but with peace. Because this time, you won't be chasing approval or outcomes. You'll be following presence. There comes a moment, right after the tears have dried and the noise has faded, when your spirit begins to sense something new. Not loud, not obvious, but quiet, like a sunrise slowly finding its way through the cracks of the clouds. It's that feeling that says, "I'm not the same person I was before this storm." You can feel it. Something in you has shifted. That's the mysterious beauty of divine redirection. It doesn't announce itself. It doesn't come with trumpets or grand signs. It comes softly through peace that makes no sense. You wake up one morning, and though the situation hasn't changed, the weight feels lighter. You find yourself breathing deeper, walking slower, thinking clearer. You realize that what once broke you no longer defines you. The wound has become wisdom, and the pain has become purpose. That's what happens when you stop fighting closed doors and start trusting the one who holds the keys. See, when one door closes, God doesn't just open another. He upgrades what's behind it. He doesn't recycle blessings. He renews them. He doesn't give you back what you lost. He gives you what you couldn't imagine while holding on to the old. Because he knows if you had stayed in that old place, with that old mindset, surrounded by people who couldn't see your worth, you would have missed the greater calling designed for you. Sometimes the door that closed wasn't rejection, it was redirection. It wasn't punishment, it was preparation. And now you can begin to see what he was doing all along. Every unanswered prayer was him protecting your peace. Every delay was him aligning your steps. Every heartbreak was him freeing your heart from something too small for your destiny. He's not done with you. He's developing you. This is where Psalm 23 begins to come alive. He restores my soul. He leads me in paths of righteousness for his name's sake. Restoration is not about replacing what you lost. It's about renewing who you are. When God restores, he doesn't take you back to how things were. He takes you forward to who you were meant to be. And that restoration doesn't just touch your emotions. It reaches every corner of your life. Your spirit, your mind, even your finances. Because when your heart begins to heal, your life begins to align. Your creativity awakens again. Your faith stirs again. Opportunities begin to flow again. You stop surviving and start thriving, not because the world changed, but because you finally did. You begin to walk with a new kind of confidence, not the loud kind that needs to prove something, but the quiet kind that knows something. You know now that every ending carries divine intention. You know that behind every goodbye is a greater hello waiting to be spoken by heaven. And one night, as you read Psalm 37:7, be still before the Lord and wait patiently for him, you feel peace settle in your chest like warm light. You realize that stillness isn't inactivity, it's trust in motion. That's when the Spirit begins to whisper something new. He says, you're ready. You're ready for new doors, ready for new joy, ready for the kind of love that won't leave, ready for provision that won't vanish, ready for purpose that fulfills instead of drains. Because your season of loss was never about what left, it was about who you were becoming. There's something divine about people who've walked through heartbreak and kept their heart open. They carry a softness the world can't understand. They don't rush, they trust. They don't panic when doors close, they pause and pray. They've learned that what feels like the end is often the sacred beginning of a chapter that only God could write. So when a door closes again, and one day you won't crumble like before. You'll simply smile and say, if it closed, it means my Father has something greater. That's what faith does. It transforms panic into peace. It turns loss into learning. It transforms stress into strategy, heartbreak into holiness, and confusion into clarity. And before long, you realize something: you're walking through life lighter. The burden that once broke you no longer fits on your shoulders. You've learned to travel with grace, to speak with peace, to trust without needing to see. Because you've finally discovered that every closed door carries a whisper. Trust me. As music quiets, becomes more intimate again, the tone of a nighttime reflection. Tonight, before you sleep, read Psalm 91 again, not as a ritual, but as a reminder. You are not forgotten. You are not behind. You are exactly where you need to be. Whisper those verses and let them sink into your spirit. He will cover you with his feathers, and under his wings you will find refuge. His faithfulness will be your shield. Let it calm your mind. Let it slow your heartbeat. Let it remind you that the same God who closed that door will open another, not out of obligation, but out of love. And as you close your eyes, imagine yourself standing before that next door, not afraid, not desperate, but ready. Because this time, you've learned the sacred art of waiting. You trust that if it's from him, it will fit your soul, not just your schedule. It will bring peace, not pressure. It will feel like coming home, not losing yourself again. You are walking into a season of divine replacement. The things that left you empty are about to be replaced with things that fill you completely. The people who walked away made space for those who will walk with you. The dreams that died are being reborn, not in the same form, but in greater purpose. Because when one door closes, God doesn't send you back to where you were. He invites you forward into who you're meant to be. He doesn't just give you restoration, he gives you revelation. He shows you that every season of loss is also a season of rebirth. And sometimes the greatest blessing is not in getting what you prayed for, but in becoming who you were meant to be all along. So tonight, let go of the doorknob that's no longer yours to hold. Step back, breathe, whisper, I trust you. And as you drift into rest, know this: heaven is already building the next chapter, one that will make you whisper one day, now I understand why it had to end. Because no closed door can ever stop what God has already chosen for you. There's a sacred moment right before the breakthrough, when the air feels thick with anticipation, but nothing has yet appeared. It's the place between prayer and promise, between the last tear and the first light. That's where you are now. And I want you to hear this clearly. This stillness is not emptiness, it's expectation. Heaven is not silent, heaven is setting the stage. When God begins to open the new door, it rarely looks grand at first. It might be a small opportunity, a quiet nudge in your heart, a conversation that seems ordinary. But don't underestimate the subtle signs, because that's how the supernatural begins. That new door is not just an entrance. It's an answer. It's the physical manifestation of all the prayers you've whispered in the dark. You'll know the new door because it won't require you to beg. It will feel aligned. It will feel peaceful. You won't have to force it open. It will simply unfold. That's how God works. His blessings don't come through striving. They come through surrender. And when you walk through that new door, you'll notice something else. The stress that once consumed you has turned into strength. The confusion that clouded your vision has turned into clarity. Because before God changes your situation, He always changes your perspective. He taught you through pain how to pray. He taught you through loss how to listen. He taught you through disappointment how to discern. Now you carry a different kind of power. Not loud, but luminous. You glow from the inside because peace has finally found a home in your soul. There was a time when the thought of losing that door broke you. But now, you can look back and thank God it closed when it did. Because if it had stayed open, it would have drained you of everything you were meant to become. The tears you cried watered the seeds of your new beginning. And the peace you feel now, that still, sacred calm, is the harvest of your obedience. This is what restoration feels like. Not the return of what was lost, but the revelation of what's next. Not the echo of the past, but the rhythm of renewal. God is not just giving you back stability, He's giving you back yourself. The parts of you that forgot how to hope. The fire that dimmed in your faith. The creativity that got buried under fear. He's bringing them all back, brighter, deeper, stronger. Music deepens, almost cinematic now, like a spiritual awakening scene. And it won't just be emotional restoration. It will be complete restoration. The kind that reaches into every area of your life, even your finances. Yes, even there. Because God's restoration isn't partial. It's perfect. Some of the stress you carried wasn't just emotional, it was financial. You prayed for peace, but you also prayed for provision. And the same God who heals hearts also blesses hands. He is about to release favor that doesn't make sense. Unexpected opportunities, divine alignments. Open doors you didn't apply for. Resources that find their way to you. Not because you chased them, but because you trusted Him. That's what happens when you surrender anxiety and walk in alignment. You stop chasing and start attracting. You stop worrying and start witnessing. Because peace is the most magnetic force in the spiritual realm. When your heart rests in God's timing, heaven starts moving in your favor. Pause. Let the silence breathe. Then the narrator's voice softens, almost like a father speaking gently to a child. So tonight, I want you to do something. When you lie down, don't replay the past. Don't overthink tomorrow. Just breathe. Whisper this in your heart. God, I trust you with what's behind me and what's ahead of me. And then let go. Let go of the doorknob. Let go of the timeline. Let go of the what-ifs. Because in the letting go, you give God permission to move. And when He moves, He doesn't just open one door. He creates a corridor of blessings. He leads you from confusion to clarity, from emptiness to overflow, from fear to faith. That's who He is. That's what He does. The piano slows. The voice becomes a whisper, deep, serene, intimate. There's something sacred about those moments before sleep, when the world grows quiet and your spirit finally exhales. That's when heaven speaks the loudest. Tonight, as you drift between thought and dream, imagine this: you're walking through a long hallway filled with closed doors. Some of them have names of things you used to want: people, jobs, opportunities, places. You reach out to touch one, but something inside says, not this one anymore. You keep walking. And at the end of the hallway, there's a door made of light, gentle, golden light. It feels warm, familiar, safe. You step closer, and for the first time, you don't knock, you simply wait. And slowly, the door opens on its own. That's God's timing. That's divine alignment. You step inside, and the air feels lighter. The pain that once clung to your chest finally releases. The weight you carried melts away. You realize this: you never had to force what was meant for you. Because when God says, now, every wall becomes a doorway. When one door closes, don't panic. Don't beg for it to reopen. Don't look back at what broke you and call it home. Lift your head, wipe your tears, and whisper, I'm ready. Because the next door won't be something you chase. It will be something you walk into with peace. And when you do, you'll realize it wasn't the door that mattered all along. It was who you became while waiting for it. You became softer but stronger, quieter but wiser. You learned that endings are not losses. They are redirections from love itself. So rest tonight, beloved soul. Rest in the truth that nothing you've lost will ever compare to what's coming. Rest in the knowing that your future is already written in grace. Rest in the peace that the same God who closed the last door is already waiting for you behind the next one. And when morning light touches your face, remember this: you didn't lose anything meant for you. You simply outgrew what was no longer aligned with your destiny. The door closed because your story was ready for the next chapter. And heaven, it's already turning the page.